Well, thank you again for doing this.
Thank
this
you.
Is,
Appreciate you having
for
me.
For the Heartland Song Network and our industry member of the month or spotlight of the month. We typically do an artist every month, but we like to reach out to our industry folks as well. But I want to get started by kind of just asking you some personal questions about your music background. And
Okay.
Are you from Kansas City?
I am not from Kansas City.
Because most people I've met are not. And
No.
so they start somewhere else. Where did you
Just
start?
where people land, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
I say I'm from Texas originally. I went to high school in just outside of Springfield. From there, I joined the Guard, National Guard, moved around a little bit, and ended up in Seattle after that. Moved to Austin for a grand total of 2 weeks, realized I couldn't afford it, and I was out of my league. So I took a job in Branson, Missouri, and that's how I ended up back in the Midwest.
Well, that is not a circuitous route. It just started south and just started moving north, and there you are.
Yeah.
Your musical background or influence, I mean, have you always been in the venue business? Have you been an artist yourself?
I'm a horrible musician.
Yeah,
I've tried. I'm just bad. I can struggle through the 12-bar blues on a bass guitar, but that's about the extent of it. I played tuba and trombone in high school, and I have a musical family. I just didn't get that gene, unfortunately.
I didn't either.
So coming out of high school, I think the teen angst in me thought I wanted to be a rock and roll journalist.
A la Lester Bangs.
Yeah. I'm way too anxious for that, so that didn't.
Too many deadlines.
Yeah, so I just kind of floated around for a second. I went after my Army experience. I went out to Seattle. Went to the Art Institute of Seattle for sound and video engineering. It was absurdly expensive and kind of silly.
Most education is.
I just decided to get a job in the industry instead. Went to work for a dueling piano bar, which is pretty much hell on earth. That's basically my foray into it. So when I went to Branson, the job that I took was for a dueling piano bar. Since I had experience with one out in Seattle, they hired me, and I figured, well, it's Branson, there's all these shows, it's probably a good foot in the door.
Did you know you were going to end up practically next to one for a good part of your tenure?
Well, I ran that one.
Oh,
actually.
did you?
Yeah.
All right.
That's actually what brought me to Kansas City.
Okay, got it.
So I took the job in Branson, thinking, all right, well, maybe I can get into a theater or something along those lines down here. And place opened beginning of summer. Summertime's great. It's like, all right, it's a beautiful town. And then all the tourists went away, and it's like, oh, this is a town full of carnies. Basically, it's horrible. Branson, Missouri is not a good place. So they had a second location up here, and they offered, hey, do you want to go run a place in Kansas City? I was like, yes, get me out of this town.
Sign me up.
Just please, whatever. Pay cut, sure, why not? So I ended up in Kansas City. Reagan was a newborn at the time, so me, Summer, and...
Is she a teenager now?
She is.
Oh, man.
She is. She's got a great attitude. Just pleasant to be around.
Yeah, I was a teenage girl once, and I know that is a bald-faced lie. So, one of the things that I've always admired about you, or why you've always been on my radar, is when I went on the radio, essentially 11 or 12 years ago, I was kind of the only one in town that was playing, besides, the occasional song on different shows, having a show that was completely dedicated to roots music, and that this was a venue that was dedicated to giving them a voice and a place to play, especially touring musicians. But what music were you listening to growing up? Was it roots music? Were you a punk rocker, country music? What was it?
My grandfather he's pure he's like the quintessential Texan, like what you picture as the
my whole family lives
Texan
there,
farmer, he was a country musician, and I really enjoyed the music he listened to. of course, in my teenage years, I got into metal and punk. That was back when pop punk was big. I unfortunately took part. I played my part. After high school, it's always been a very eclectic mix. But country music has always been
The
what
foundation.
I really enjoy.
Yeah.
A little bit edgier, I enjoy lyrics, which helps in that vein, I suppose. But I really don't. I think genres are a little bit blurred at this point. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, no, I think it is too. I mean, for the longest time, roots music or alt country or whatever you want to call it didn't have a moniker at all,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was latched onto the word Americana and what does
Right.
that mean or whatever. It's a very broad umbrella.
It is.
And it has a lot of influences. I know more what it isn't than what it is. But it's okay to blur the lines. I mean, I think that I find that a lot of folks in my generation get stuck in classic rock,
Mm-hmm.
or classic R&B, which is fantastic music. I love it. I grew up on it. But, I moved on about 25 or 30 years ago, and I'm glad I did because it's such a wonderful, eclectic world out
Sure.
there.
And I think that's really what the Roots umbrella is. It's a very eclectic catch-all phrase that you can use. Like, if you get branded as the classic rock cover bar or the hip-hop bar or the punk rock
Mm-hmm.
bar, well, those are all pretty limiting. Of course, branding yourself as a Roots bar can be limiting as well. But,
the stories are what, to me, is what's so important in songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Or me as a patron and listening. Boy, if you can tell me a great story, I don't really care what genre music
Right,
is.
right.
I'm all in to listening. How are you? How is the bar? How is the business doing? I'm tired of asking people, how you doing during the lockdown?
Sure,
And
sure.
How did you pivot and all that kind of stuff? No, how are you doing right now?
We were doing great until 2 weeks ago when those metal detectors went back up. The last 3 years down here has been challenging, COVID aside. As we were talking before, the summer of 2017 was particularly rough here in Westport, and the powers that be, the property owners, not the tenants, we don't get a vote. They decided to put up gates and security measures. And that, both Tim and us over here, it was a 42 and 43% drop in sales immediately, respectively, between the two of us, which is pretty telling that they're in line that close. I mean, that's not that's nothing other than the gates. From September of 2018 when they put them in to September of 2019, just 43% drop. That was rough. But luckily I'm small enough that we have been able to pivot a little bit. COVID obviously was very, very rough.
Were you able to apply for and get some of the
Yeah, we got
grants
some
and support?
PPP loans, and we did get support, and we were open for a good portion of that without music. It was basically me just coming, unlocking the door, and working when I wanted to. At that point, everybody being forced to go home at 10 o'clock was absolutely fantastic.
For the bar business.
I'm not trying to be a temperance advocate or anything, but if we could do that again, Mayor Lucas, that'd be fantastic.
Do you have an opinion, I know that you do, as to what will or should happen in your industry as a venue owner? I mean, there's a couple of organizations that have sort of been born. I don't know, I think they were born during the pandemic. The
NIVA
and some of them.
I think they were.
Have you belonged to organizations like that?
Yeah, I do belong
to them. Are they
to them.
helpful to you, or?
They're not helpful
they
to me because I'm too small. I had a series of roadblocks actually. You know, with all of these were based off 2019 sales. All relief packages, any Save Our Stages funding, anything along those lines. So with there being a 43% drop in revenue in 2019, 2020 came around to base your sales off 2019 figures. It was not great. So that was just kind of insult to injury. You know, after seeing what happened, because they did a test run basically from September through October with those gates in 2018. Immediately I could tell it was going to be a really rough summer the next summer when they were planning on doing it full 6 months. So I pared down my entertainment schedule like crazy. I didn't do a lot of shows in 2019.
I mean, you were having shows every night, 7 days a week.
Yeah, prior to 2019, I was having music 7 nights a week. So, you know, I pared that down for 2019, kind of a stop the bleeding, see how this whole thing plays out, because surely these guys are going to see how horrible this is for business and scrap this idea, which still hasn't happened, unfortunately. So I didn't have a ton of shows in 2019, so the Save Our Stages thing didn't really apply to me. My PPP loans were all, you know, fractions of what they would have been if it was regular business operating. So yeah, there's a lot of insult to injury there, but we made it through. You made it through, and during... I'm really tired. Yeah. Well, during the pandemic, you were going to college, right? Yeah. Finishing a degree, and then... Are you in the master's program? I'm not. I'm planning on going back probably next fall is my plan. Taking a little bit of time off to bring everything back up to snuff here. Would you have been able to finish the degree if you weren't locked down and not as busy, or did you finish it before 2020? No, I just finished it last month. Well, congrats. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Put that diploma on the wall back there where we can all see it. Yep. My guidance counselor has not told me how to get my diploma yet, so. Oh, the physical. I got it. It's good enough for me. What was there anything? It was challenging. Like a light bulb moment that went off during the course of your studies that you thought, this is how I can really apply this to my business, or. And the reason I ask is I didn't go to college until I was 30. All right. And I went for 2 years part-time, and I just couldn't. I was working full-time, and I just couldn't make the commitment. Sure. And it couldn't hold my interest. Understood. To finish it. And, you know, now it's another 30 or 40 years later, and I will not be getting a college degree. But I've always been in awe of those who decide to go to college and finish at a not. I wouldn't say there were any big light bulb moments. You know, obviously I was a non-traditional student. I was already a business owner at the time, going into a business administration degree. You probably could have taught the course. Or portions of it. Maybe parts. Yeah, that's not how it actually goes in real life. No, I had some good professors. You know, but going into it, I realized that, you know, I was going in with a completely different perspective, and different reasons, really. You know, so much, especially down at UMKC, is this is how you're going to get your jobs. This is how it's like. I have no interest in having a job ever. Like, I'm fine with working 80 hours to avoid that 40-hour thing, you know. You know, I went in for a couple reasons. My father never graduated high school at all. You know, he worked pretty hard to get me to a point where I could go to college, and I kind of pissed that away when I was younger. And I wanted to set a good example for my daughter. And beyond that, I kind of think I want to teach in my golden years. You know, we don't pay teachers enough in this country. Just throwing that out there. So it's kind of one of those things. I'm not gonna spend my younger years teaching for no money. I'd rather, you know, try to make a decent, save up for retirement.
Have you had
do it a little
mentors
longer.
in your life? Either musical mentors or business mentors, or have you?
Oh yeah. You know, my dad ran his own business. He had a carpet cleaning business that he completely bootstrapped together.
That's hard work.
You know,
physical work.
Very hard work. You know, he ran that, him and my mother, for 30 plus years. Actually, probably closer to 40. So that was a big inspiration for me. And of course, I was working with him at 11, 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I kind of got a view of that lifestyle. It's like, all right, this is what it's like to be a small business owner and work for yourself and not have to work with people that you don't want to work with.
So you're working 80 hours a week, at least?
It depends on who's on tour, I guess.
Yeah.
On who's coming in and what of my staff is going on tour, you know. So I'm really trying to get away from that, though. You know, I'm getting older and I don't want to anymore. So
What would our members or anyone watching this be surprised to know about running a venue like this? What kind of safety measures do you have to take? What are some of the risk management or risk mitigation activities do you have to be cognizant of that maybe someone else wouldn't have to, that's not in the venue business? And you know, security, overserved patrons, health issues,
well, you know, every one of those is their own topic, obviously, to get into. I would say, as a venue, at least my approach and my strategy on it is, the most important part is really creating and maintaining the culture of it, because, you know, if I'm really proud of what we've built here with the regulars, the staff, the musicians,
The artists, absolutely,
everyone
yeah.
involved is basically a stakeholder in this place. So, you know, when you have people that are passionate about what you do and not here just to drink and spit on the floor, it's one of those things. I mean, that takes care of all your security issues. That takes care of all. I mean, I've got a self-policing crowd. We've had 3 fights in here in 8 years. 2 of them were more slappy fights than anything. The first one was right after we opened, when people didn't really realize that there'd been a change from the previous business that was here.
we talk about, at the Heartland Song Network, we talk about culture all the time, and you know what it means to build one, not only at a house concert venue, but a venue like this. It's a learning process.
It is.
It's a learning process for the audience as well. We talked to a woman who has a house concert series essentially in her coffee shop, and how, in a very small town in the Ozarks, and how she had to essentially teach the audience how to act at a performance like that. It's not that it's not child friendly, but please leave your children at home with a babysitter. Do not talk during the performance. Save your conversation for either the intermission or take it outside. She had to kind of gently and slowly and surely teach the audience how to act. That was 8 years ago. Now it's a long-standing series. They like you say, they self-police themselves. And if someone comes in new, which there usually is someone new every month.
Sure, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah, then they learn pretty quickly what the expectations are for their behavior while they're there. So, I mean, as someone of a certain vintage, I don't come to Westport all that often. This is the only venue that I will come to, because I do feel safe here, and I know what to expect, and I know what I'm going to get, and it's usually really great music, and like you said, a self-policed crowd, and great service. So
Thanks.
there you go.
Knocking it out of the park.
What marketing? What marketing channels do you use? Do you have an annual budget? Do you rely heavily on social media? What do you do about marketing?
Well, I haven't had a marketing budget since 2019 for the previous conversation. We did rely a lot on social media before. Big cash expenditures haven't really been in the, it hasn't been an option
have
for
you
us.
used radio and television or
We have not.
print media?
We are moving that direction though. I've hired Weston White. I'm not sure if you ever met Weston. He used to run sound here on occasion. Turns out he has a marketing degree and he was tired of working at Cerner, so he came over here and keeps wearing Birkenstocks to the office, but I'll forgive that. He's doing a pretty good job.
We all have our little picadillos.
Yeah. So he's been working on a lot of things, trying to get all of our live streams and online media working for us. We are going to actually, I think right about now he's probably on the phone with Sam over at KKFI working out an underwriting deal over there.
Sam Weissman.
Yeah. And,
Good.
So we are going that direction. If I like to think of Westport Saloon as pre-security gates and post-security gates. Before when we opened, there was a champagne bar going in over here. There's a high-end Julep, which is a really nice whiskey bar over here. There's Bridger's Bottle Shop. There was a lot of young professionals and whatnot coming into the district, and that has changed obviously down here. So with that, the security gates, the crowd changing, I haven't been able to, how did you say it, of a certain vintage, getting my customers that pre-gates.
Recruit or just feel safe and feel welcomed. I mean,
Well, those earlier singer-songwriter and folk shows and whatnot that I used to do that I love and really want to do, I can't really pull those off in Westport anymore. Understandably, people don't want to come down to Westport. I get it. Honestly, I wouldn't come down to Westport either. You could probably edit that part out. Come to Westport, it's great. So, my strategy is, if I get these live streams going and get those out to people, that'll at least keep my branding known for whenever I do.
You were doing streaming live before a lot of people.
Yeah, we started in 2015.
You started, and that seems like a decade ago. Is it a decade
It's getting
ago?
close.
It's getting close. Or maybe a generation ago, I should say. And so it's just been part of my regular viewing habit, and I think that you're probably better poised to take advantage of all the new technologies as they're evolving like every 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
Is it scary to make a commitment to actually buy something?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How do you budget for that? How do you make a plan on what's trying to budget a year from now or even 18 months from now, what gear you're going to need, what technology you're going to need?
Well, obviously with gear technology, especially in the audio-visual category, staying within certain ecosystems is important. So, I don't want to get into a big gear talk. I guess it all goes with strategy and what your end game is.
Right.
It's like, is this overpriced piece of equipment going to work with the next series that I'm trying to get to? Before Bo and I were talking about the camera lens mounts on these Sony digital cameras are amazing. They're better, they're lighter.
Phones are amazing.
They're
what
fantastic.
you're able to get a phone
honestly.
to do. How they've evolved.
But I chose a different route of cameras just because the lens mounts, because at the end of the day, professional production cameras that I wanted to get were the same lens mount. So because the camera itself costs a lot of money, but lenses cost a ton. Todd Zimmer came in shortly after I bought it just to talk lenses. I can't think of anybody better to talk lenses with. He brings in this huge case. He starts putting them out. He's like, and this one, he's like, and that one's going to cost you about like, well, I'm not getting that one.
Maybe can you rent that sort of thing for the short term?
Not when you're trying to do music every day.
Yeah. Well, let's switch from gear to personnel. Has the way you recruit, interview, hire staff changed
Absolutely
since you started?
has.
How has it changed? Is it strictly like word of mouth and personal referral rather than just going out into the great unknown trying to recruit somebody?
No, honestly, some of my best hires have come from the great unknown. And that's really the biggest change that I've had over the years. There's a Rockefeller had a quote that says, friendship founded in business is superior to a business founded in friendship. And truer words have not been spoken. So I've really tried to, I've really learned over the years, you got to keep those things separate. I forgot where I was going with that. The great unknown is great.
Yeah, the great unknown is not anything to be afraid of,
right?
Or to avoid.
I'm not trying to hire friends.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's.
I don't
or
get me
family,
wrong.
it can be a problem.
We have a professional relationship and a friendly relationship, definitely. Will, who's been here for 8 years, we're very close friends at this point. We've worked together for 8 years. I mean, you would expect that.
Yeah.
But I did not know Will before.
Yeah. Do you like to collaborate? Are you comfortable with whether it's collaborating with your fellow business owners here in the area, or are you pretty much a solo practitioner? There's a collaboration.
Somebody's trying to collaborate.
I mean, one of the main tenets of our mission is to elevate or empower the creation of song through education, collaboration, mentorship. And if what we're doing doesn't address one of those three areas, then we probably shouldn't be doing it. And I'm learning that collaboration is probably one of the most important aspects of what we're trying to do. So I was just curious, as a venue owner, do you have the opportunity to collaborate?
I am coming out of my shell a little bit more.
Yeah.
Early in the Westport Saloon days, I collaborated with a record label that went sideways and horribly for me. So since then, I've kind of been a little gun shy when it comes to that. As far as
like the Roots Festival.
Right.
That you put on for years, that would be an opportunity, I would think, to collaborate with a lot of different types of business. You're out there trying to get sponsors.
Yeah, and
I mean, I see that all as collaboration.
It absolutely
You all
is.
have to kind of get on the same page about the project or whatever it is, if it's going to work.
Right. It's hard collaborating with anybody in Westport because what I'm doing is completely different than. But my goals as the Westport Saloon are completely different than Harpo's goals or Johnny Caw's goals or Kelly's goals or anything like that. So, at the end of the day, collaborations with that don't make a ton of sense. I have a great relationship with all those operators, and I respect what they're doing, them as operators. Back to the Mix 93 thing that they're trying to put together for Westport. It's like, well, none of my listeners are listening to 93.3, and I don't know that I want people that do listen to 93.3 coming in here and yelling over a singer-songwriter, so I'm just going to duck out of that collaboration.
I love the the events that you did where it was like a death match?
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. That's Andrew and Julie.
That was collaboration, at its finest to my untrained eye.
We are
and your willingness to let them do that. I mean, that is a format that most venue owners probably wouldn't even consider.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's entertainment.
It's probably some of my most fond musical memories in Kansas City.
Fantastic.
Are those death matches where they had, Stosh and Kelly Hunt versus the Match Sellers or whatever, and going song to song, and each song had a theme, murder ballads, songs about birds or whatever, and then we would, as the crowd,
Kelly's like, I got songs about birds,
and then we would vote, on who, and it was a death match. It got real. I mean, it was very spirited.
Right.
I just love that.
No, when it comes to collaborating with artists, I love doing that. I'm sorry, I guess for some reason I was latched onto business collaborations and whatnot.
Well, whatever. The word means.
Actually, I'm working with AJ Gaither. We do have a art fair in Westport every year, and this year we're trying to put together a Maker Fest in here with an OMB festival, basically, during the day, during the art festival. Sorry if I wasn't supposed to say that yet, AJ. It's fine. And then
well, you can check with him.
Andrew and Julie, the Match Sellers, who put on the do a death match. They're going to start a bluegrass night here in September, the week after Winfield.
Yeah, I was going to say, it better be after Winfield.
Yeah. Actually, we were looking at the calendar. It's like, well, there's no sense in starting it in August and then, taking a couple weeks off for Winfield.
Yeah.
We might
as
well
those that
just
go down to Landrush. And
we might as well just start it after Winfield, try to catch the wave, because, every year there's some kids that go down there and discover bluegrass music and drugs
and drop everything that they've learned before at the conservatory or Berkeley or wherever they went to school.
Just quit their jobs at Cerner and start wearing Birkenstocks to the office.
What advice would you give to any young entrepreneur that thinks they want to be a venue owner?
Watch a lot of plumbing YouTubes. Water happens a lot.
That was not on my bingo card.
Top of the list. That's just any bar in general. That's going to be one of your biggest issues, is where water's going.
That is a very practical, hands-on piece of advice. What kind of esoteric, intangible advice would you give?
Check your arrogance at the door and listen to people. I mean, people have been doing this a lot longer than you have. People have been doing this wrong a lot longer than you have too. But I mean, listen, take advice. Don't be afraid to be a fly in the room at meetings, and just find out how everybody's doing it, and base that on how you can do what you're doing better.
From your perspective, what do you think the Heartland, and we kind of change our definition of the Heartland from being like Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and then we include Oklahoma and Arkansas in there. What does the Heartland do well with regard to music and supporting it? Is there anything that we do well that people may not give us credit for and might not have thought of?
There is a gold mine of music in the Ozarks. I'll start with that.
Ozark Highlands Radio. I highly recommend it. Yeah, from Springfield.
I absolutely love the music that comes out of the Ozarks. It's fantastic. I don't know, as far as what the Heartland does for music.
Do your touring artists that come through here? I mean, you host a lot of touring artists that are not from the Heartland. Do they share with you how they feel about touring through here? Is this just a place to fill a gig during the week while they're on their way to play the big gig in St. Louis or Dallas or whatever?
Big gigs don't happen in St. Louis. Nothing good happens in St. Louis. I mean,
As someone who grew
Pizza,
up there, I
barbecue, none of
absolutely
it.
concur. You're not hurting my feelings at all, and I grew up there.
no, I mean, everyone who comes to play in Kansas City, I know loves playing in Kansas
Yeah.
City. We normally have good crowds come out. There is a lot of support here. We are a great routing gig to
Yeah,
the coasts, obviously. I don't know what the Heartland does.
Yeah,
with
well,
me.
think about that.
All
We
right.
can maybe do that for another. I have one last
I'll
question.
text you later. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what we do.
Yeah,
this is what we do.
Or 3 o'clock in the morning when, I just remembered what I was going to say. And this last question for you, you may not have an answer for it right
Okay.
now, but we can think about it, is what can the Heartland Song Network do to help the Westport Saloon and Travis Fields? Having
Support
told-
the artists that are
Yeah.
coming through here, honestly, because at the end of the day, that's what we're all in this for, is to get more people in front of the artists. So, I mean,
People just,
our
artists
calendar's filling up.
just want to play. They just want to play.
Mm-hmm.
All right, duly noted. Well, if there's, anything more specific that we can do for you, let us know, because that is our goal,
Okay.
is to empower the creation of song through education, collaboration, and mentorship.
Well,
However that looks.
I am looking to collaborate with somebody to move out of Westport.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
All right.
all right.
All
Well,
right.
thank you so much for
Well,
having
you're
me.
welcome for coming down here at 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning when I know that you were here till at least 2 or 3.
It was a late night.
Yeah, it was a late
night. The
Thanks.
blues jam is going
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for what you
Appreciate
do.
it. Absolutely. Thank you guys for what you're doing.
All right.